Hi guys, welcome to Wolf Talk. My name is Gab Leonetti. I am WCRE's marketing director, and this is our second episode. Today we are here with Andrew Koller, our internal research analyst and senior advisor for the PA sector.
Hi everyone, I'm Andrew Koller. As Gab said, I'm our research analyst and junior advisor here at Wolf Commercial Real Estate. Excited to take you through this video segment.
Thanks for joining us. So, give us what your day to day kind of looks like as a research analyst. I think it's kind of hard for some people to understand what that actually is or what that looks like and how you help the brokers.
Yeah, so it's a very unique role. A lot of boutique firms like this don't really have the capabilities that we have provided here at Wolf. My day to day really is basically focused around supporting the brokers in both New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York supplementally. So what I do is I work with our brokers to understand the requirements for each of their buildings, their tenant relationships, and then what I do is I compile the necessary data to make the best decisions, whether we're doing tenant rep. I'll put together surveys of everything in the market that they're interested in, gather rental rates, lease terms, reach out to landlords when applicable, and understand the hurdles and necessities they need to get to a lease. And then when we have agency agreements and we work on behalf of a landlord, a big part of my job is compiling huge databases for our brokers so that they have an idea of whether they represent a medical space, professional space, retail space. What my main focus is to provide them with contacts in the region, outside of the region, of retailers and clients in that sector. And then what we do is we try to convert those into warm leads and ultimately put them in the buildings that we represent.
Since your day to day is basically working with the brokers and having a better understanding of dealing with owners, doing tenant rep information, pulling all different types of content, have you ever had a point where you've reached a snag or any type of stopping point for your research market data, and how have you overcome that?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times in data compiling, we run into errors where we don't have applicable data. We have previous data that is no longer accurate. So what we do, and Gab's a big part of this, is we're continually trying to evolve the platforms and the resources that we have. These give us exposure to historic data, current data, and we can leverage both of those to understand what is current and active. And then my best practice and best advice, I think, is to be on the phones and be speaking with people, because the most relevant information is always going to be traveled word of mouth in real estate. That's how information gets passed, and really the nitty gritty, up to date, may not always be uploaded in a platform online. So being present in your market, speaking to other brokers, landlords, and other players in the market is a big way to get over those hurdles.
You mentioned historical data and then newer data, collecting newer information and making sure that you're on the phone. How do you balance historical data with predictive data to help with overseeing market trends, especially when I know that you help us a lot with the quarterly report that we put out? So how do you balance that out? How does that work for you?
Yeah, well, historic data is always crucial in making big decisions and understanding where markets are at now, where they're going to go, and where they've been. So in markets of growth, in areas of growth, it's great to use historical analysis to understand what were the curves in previous periods of growth, and then in periods of regression, also analyze those charts and data to understand how markets reacted. And then what we can do is leverage that analysis, apply that to where we are currently, use those same kind of factors to understand how things may grow, how they may compact and shift downwards. But what I would say is that in areas of growth, we want to look towards the future and where things may go. And in areas of regression, we want to look towards the historical data so that we can come up with a basis and a flat line for where we are now and how we'll proceed.
And with the quarterly report, since that's we typically put a quarterly report out. It's usually about 40 pages long. It hits on South Jersey, North Jersey, New York, and Philadelphia, which are all major markets for our tri-state region.
Yeah.
When you're looking at that and you're looking at the data, and then you're looking also with putting those quarterly reports, gathering all of the information, what have you seen? What shifts have you seen from doing this a couple of times now and assisting? Where have you seen a shift in certain sectors? what's happening now more so than ever than you
Yeah.
have seen in the past or have heard of in the past?
Yeah, well, nationally, we want to look at industrial for the sake of e-commerce and supporting the huge expansion of e-commerce in the last 10 years and even probably further than that. And then looking forward, what I think is a huge play in 25 and beyond is data centers. So industrial land more so than maybe existing buildings, because major players are purchasing industrial land to build and develop these data centers, and that to support AI and this next wave of digital intelligence. Data centers are going to be crucial in that.
Whatever. Okay. So we've went over a lot of information today. What is one trend that completely caught you off guard?
Yeah, so I've been with Wolf Commercial Real Estate a little over 2 years at this point, while I was in school and now that I'm out. And one thing that has really surprised me and shocked me in my time in the industry is the slow return to office. There are major corporations and even not so major corporations spending millions of dollars, hundreds of $1,000s in rent. And frankly, they're a little bit scared of their employee base to force them back to the office. And, as a businessman myself, I find that a little troubling that they're shelling out potentially $1 million in rent, yet these buildings are sitting vacant,
Yeah.
unused, and great for the landlord. Their space isn't being used, but not so advantageous to the tenant who is paying all that rent.
Right. I agree. What would you say for when you're speaking with like a landlord or an owner? Because I know that we've also seen a shift a little bit in South Jersey for certain office buildings. They're starting to bring in more amenities
Yeah.
to retain tenants, but to also get and capture new tenants as well. Like, are they starting to make that shift over in Philadelphia as well?
Certainly. So, flight to quality is a big term, big
Mhm.
phrase going around in real estate right now, and it's very evident in the data. You look at Class A trophy buildings, they're about 90% occupied right now in Philadelphia. You look down at Class C, clearly non-trophy buildings, those buildings' occupancy is very low, north of 50%. These buildings are struggling. There's a lot of CMBS failure, a lot of debt service issues that are going to come to light at some
Mhm.
point, which will bring the question on of what do you do with these buildings? Do you repurpose them? Do you try to amenitize an old out of date building and retain tenants? But going back to your original question, in Class A trophy buildings, these amenities, fitness centers, coffee bars, shared dining areas, they're big draws for young employees, not so young employees that want to be in the office. They want to have something to do. They can collaborate with
Mhm.
others, and it provides a setting in the office to do that where you don't need to go to a happy hour and go to a bar and grab a drink. You can all, whether it's a coffee, water, glass of wine, you can do that in the office, and it just fosters collaboration between everyone.
Yeah, I agree. It kind of reminds me a little bit of how like Google initially
Yeah,
started. Everybody was talking about like those little snap pods or
yeah, yeah.
whatever. Like they kind of started that trend and then it just from COVID, it seemed like that went on the tail end and
Yep.
now like the amenities are starting to creep back in, the walking scores,
Oh
like
yeah,
especially with
that's right.
Philadelphia, making sure that you're next to all of the high end retail or all of, the nicer like food restaurants,
Yeah.
like being within those vicinities is like a big deal, making sure that you're next to any like transportation, especially with Philadelphia. I mean, it seems like that's like a big deal to make sure that all of these Class A buildings have that as well.
Yes, yes. So when buildings are developed, obviously there's a focus for these major buildings to be developed around public transportation. But in the era after COVID, where many people flocked from cities, they moved to suburbs, they moved, even maybe just more outside the city, that regional transportation is huge. The availability to have that in close proximity to your office is a major advantage to you as a tenant in retaining the best quality talent.
Absolutely. When you talk about life science, give us some headway about that, what that is, what that looks like, especially because that seems to be like every networking event talks about life sciences these days.
In 2025 in Philadelphia and beyond, really, what I think is a major area of focus is life science. In University City, Brandywine Realty Trust has just completed 3025 JFK, which is a mixed-use building of residential on the top, lab space in the middle, some office below, and retail on the ground floor. In addition to that, 3151 Market Street is an entirely life science property that is being brought to market right now, located in a Keystone Opportunity Investment Zone. meaning that clients and tenants in that building will be tax incentivized to be in that building and stay there for a period of 10 years or more. That said, the Navy Yard is expanding with life science as we speak. 2500 League Island Boulevard is coming to market now, developed by Gattuso, and these are big areas of focus for Philadelphia with Penn, CHOP, and major healthcare networks like Drexel in the area, providing great talent. There's a lot of funding, and 2025 is going to be a year where funding comes back, tenants are in the office, and big developments happen in the life science market.